Good evening, everyone. This is the Committee of the Whole meeting on February 6th, 2023. We are the Board of the Park District Commissioners of the Lake Bluff Park District, Lake County, Illinois. If I could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Here.
Commissioner Lane. Here. Commissioner Raymore. Here. Commissioner Reeder. Commissioner Walsh. Commissioner Weber. President Beeler.
Here. Next up, an approval of our agenda for this evening.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, Marcia, please.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Lane. Yes. Commissioner Raymore. Yes. President Beeler.
Yes. Next on our agenda is the statement of visitors. This allows any visitors who are here, physically here at the Park District or as well on Zoom, to be able to address the board. There's a 3-minute time limit per citizen who would like to partake in this statement of visitors. We don't have anyone physically present here, so Jeff, I'll turn to you. Is there someone on Zoom who would like to address the board?
There are none.
Thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda is verbal communications. In my report, it's going to actually be more incorporated into what we talk about with the conference. But first to say thank you, because we do have Craig from NSSRA here with us tonight. We will have Labola with Ben Miller at our next meeting. So it's good to get these kinds of ability to be able to talk with our partners with the Park District. So from there, I'll move on to our new business, which is your presentation. You are up as our first on the new business.
So you want me to stay here and we go to the podium? What works out? You tell me.
What are you comfortable with?
Whichever you guys would like.
I think you could. Yeah, if you want to, is it easier to stand up?
I can see. No, I'm fine from here.
Okay, let's do that.
Whatever your preference. Excellent. All right. So my name's Craig Culp. I recognize some of you. I am the executive director at NSSRA. And NSSRA is an extension of the 13 partner agencies, park districts of the North Shore, which one is Lake Bluff. Lake Bluff is one of our founding partners. We were created in 1970. I'll go through that here briefly. But basically, if you aren't familiar with NSSRA, we're a park district for people with disabilities. And SRAs were created in 1970. We're the first one ever. And we partner with our 13 agencies to make sure that our residents with disabilities have recreational opportunities. And kind of the thinking behind NSRA is there aren't enough individuals in one community to merit having a standalone agency. So the park districts basically mirrored the special education system in the 60s and applied it to recreation. So in 1969, there was an addition to the Park District Code, which I'll explain up here, and that's where NSSRA was born. Now there's 33 SRAs in Illinois, 26 in the collar here in the Chicagoland area, and Illinois is the only state that has SRA. So we're a pretty unique offering and a pretty, really kind of the gold standard for the world for recreation for people with disabilities. So thank you for your partnership with us over the last 52.5 years. It's been an exciting 52.5 years, and we look forward to a very, very bright future. So that's just like what I'll start with. We have a brief presentation, and please, let's make it a conversation. I'll run through this, give you kind of the 30,000-foot view, and then I welcome any questions as we go. So next, please, Noah. So our vision, our mission, our vision, and our history. I told a little bit about history here, but our mission is to enrich the lives of people with disabilities in our partner communities through quality recreation services. And vision is to be leaders, and that's leaders in recreation by providing innovative and exceptional services for people with disabilities. I'll touch on vision, with the word leaders. We started this whole thing. Our residents with disabilities will be taking over your gym on Sunday. We have our Special Olympic, we have 10 Special Olympic basketball teams coming. First time in 3 years because of COVID. It's really a fun afternoon, a fun day. So if you can stop by, just for 10 minutes, pop in, and see. We have 2 games going the entire time. Our first jump ball is at 9 a.m. Our last one's scheduled to be at 3:15. we'll get everybody up in time to get home for the Super Bowl. But, to see, this building will be filled with Special Olympians, age 18 to 80. And our team will be here. I'll be out officiating. It's a blast. So that's what this partnership is all about. And we have volunteers that come out. One quick story. Back in 2016, what's his name? Trevor, the quarterback for the Northwestern Wildcats. The Wildcats came out and volunteered. Trevor Simeon, right, yeah. He was here. He was one of our celebrity officials for 4 of the 5 games, and our participants loved him. So we don't have any Wildcats coming up this time because they're too busy, but it's going to be great.
How many would you estimate, how many people will be through the building affiliated?
Well, we have 10 teams coming, so yeah, that's 120 right there, and then their parents. So I'd say in excess of 300 people coming and going. Depending on, and the teams as they move on, they'll stick around. If you lose 2 games in a row, they'll probably be like, hey, it's Super Bowl time, let's get out of here. So, yeah, so between 250 and 300 people, I think, will be coming and going.
So no pickleball on Sunday.
Right, yeah, exactly. Sorry about that.
The gym will be very busy.
All right, Noah. So I mentioned the 5/8 levy a little bit. So again, in the late 60s, Park District professionals went to the legislators. Section 5/8 of the Park District Code was written. Very simply, it sets aside, it's called the 5/8 levy. And it's a specific levy that's part of each Park District's ability to tax. And it's 4 cents on every $100 of EAV can be assessed specifically for services for individuals with disabilities. Those dollars go to fund NSSRA if you are a partner agency. And you have to be part of an SRA to access that levy. If you're not, you can't just individually access it. The one exception being the Chicago Park District. They're so big, it's written in law that they can assess that levy on their own. And then articles of agreement, that's our bylaws, for lack of a better description, between NSSRA and its 13 partners. And again, 13 partners, our northern border is Lake Bluff Park District, southern border is Wilmette and Glenview Park District, and all the park districts in between. We have 10 park districts, and then the cities of Lake Forest and Highwood, and the village of Riverwoods. So our 13 partners are 10 park districts, 2 cities, and 1 village. Participation, if you guys can see that there, just like COVID knocked us right between the eyes. So you can see our numbers between compared 19 to 22. We're definitely right back where we are, or where we were, which is fantastic. 20 and 21 were much more of a challenge, to say the least.
And again, just to clarify, that's Lake Bluff residents.
That's Lake Bluff residents, not NSSRA in its entirety. I'm sorry about that. So, in the way that we run registration, the way we track registration, the number on the left is the number of individuals that signed up from this community, and then the number on the right is the total number of registrations they collectively. So, if I sign up for 2 programs in the winter, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, and none in the summer, I'd be 1 person who signed up for 8 programs that year. Okay, we try to keep it really simple. And participation-wise, our powerlifting team, they work out here in your fitness center, and we've had gold medal winners for the last 4 years, which is amazing. Basketball tournament is back this year, which is fantastic. We've used your dance room and multi-purpose room and gyms for many programs in the past. And then you can see under their inclusion experience, which is a very vibrant program. So our inclusion opportunities are when a child or an adult with a disability wants to participate in their home park district program rather than coming over and doing a segregated program with NSSRA. Then we work with Jim and his team to assess what the needs are, and our most common accommodation is to hire a one-on-one leisure aid individual to work in the program with that individual and be part of the program. And that happens on an as-need basis, and we have another stat up here of the participation. Our biggest challenge right now is finding staff to fill that great role of being an inclusion aid. It's the funnest job in the world. You literally get to go to tennis camp or whatever and just play, but it's super hard to find people. But we definitely are plugging along, and you'll see some numbers here. Our ability to secure staff is not where we want it to be, but it's definitely moving in the right direction. Okay, no. Budget-wise, we have 3 assessments maximum. We have a MAC, which is a member agency contribution, an inclusion contribution, and then a capital contribution. We haven't had a capital contribution in 2 years since we opened the building because, there was some definite cost relative to the building. But the MAC, or member agency contribution, that basically is our operational day-to-day, and it's proportionately assessed to all 13 partners, based 50% on gross population and 50% on EAB. And $83,361 is the breakup of what Lake Bluff Park District's portion was for last year, 2022. And then the inclusion contribution is specifically tied to the staff that works, as an inclusion aid at each member agency. And those dollars are paid by NSSRA and then reimbursed from our partner agency. So if you look there, it's gone from $7,900 in 2020 during COVID to last year's just over $20,000. And that goes all over the place. You have preschool and after school programming. If one child signs up for preschool for the entire year before and after school, we're paying a staff $16 an hour for 3 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. That has a major impact, on a year-to-year basis. So we budget for it, and then we even up with each of our partners at the end of every year. Great. Next. Foundation-wise, our foundation is amazing. So created in 1997, and they were fantastic and are fantastic. So between 97 and basically when we opened the building, they provided $2.5 million to NSSRA for scholarships, vehicles, starting programs, and our big special events. Between 2019 when we bought the building and 2021 when we opened the building, they contributed $600,000 directly towards the purchase of the building and raised $2.2 million in just over a year for the programming spaces in the building, which is amazing. And that year was during COVID, if you can believe that. And then when we opened the building last year, I went to the foundation and made a presentation and a request that they fund the capital plan for all participant spaces in the new building. And they didn't even blink and said, yes, sign us up, we'll do it right now. So on a 10-year rolling average, that's $114,000 a year they've committed to NSSRA, for our capital needs, which is incredible. They're super, to say the least.
Quite how large is your foundation?
So we have 13 board members right now, our budget has been somewhat skewed over the last 2 years because of the new building and this big capital campaign that they were able to run successfully. But they have approximately $120,000 to $150,000 a year budget, not counting the building. But since the building, it's really been moving in the right direction, which is great, and especially with the commitment of $114,000 a year. So they're very healthy right now, great fund balance, and super supportive.
And one thing, I spoke with Craig about having Craig and maybe someone from the foundation come to present at Friends. If John would like to, to entertain them for one of the meetings, they would be happy to come out and do that.
And Jennifer was asking before, so the events the foundation runs, so we have an annual holiday campaign, letter writing campaign, most successful one we've ever had, just closed up at the end of the year. They raised over $90,000 from a letter writing campaign. We have an annual golf outing. It rotates between our 7 park districts that have a golf course, so I think we're in Lake Bluff either in 24 or 25. This year we're at Wilmette Park District. And then we have sponsorship opportunities with our big annual Summer Bash and Shining Stars Banquet. So that's where they receive their funding, and our families are super supportive. So awesome. Just a quick touch on our new building, the Mitchell L. Slotnick Center, dedicated just over a year ago. Centrally located, we're basically right across the street from the Botanic Gardens on Lake Brook Road. We just did a lot of forestry work, so you can actually see our building now, which is great. It was a $9 million project. $5 million came from our partner park districts. $4.2 million came from through our foundation. It's a 30,000 square foot building. 22,000 square feet were completely gutted and renovated. The great news is 16,000 of that 22,000 square feet is programming space. That programming space includes 3 multi-purpose spaces. That's one of them right there, the Ella room that you can see in the picture. Our participant lounge, a patio, a teaching kitchen, an art room, a fitness room, and it's a brand new location. So, and we're on just over 5 acres. It's mostly indoor space. We have a little bit of outdoor space. But it's a fantastic location, very centrally located. I know that location makes it much more convenient for our residents of Lake Bluff just to shoot straight down south rather than making the way out to Northbrook where we used to be.
If nothing else, it makes it easier for me to get to the meeting.
For sure, right, exactly. These are just some pictures if you haven't been there before. So top left is the yellow room. It's a beautiful, it's 2 stories of glass looking out. That's where our adult day program is every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 3. And then we have, various programs in there every evening. Bottom left is our art room. Middle top is just a picture from a drone of outside. One of our meeting rooms there is in the middle on the bottom. It's our teaching kitchen on the top right, which is kind of neat. It has like it has these glass walls with all the light in. It was a catering kitchen that was just completely in cement blocks before. So we opened it up, got some light in there. And then same with the bottom there. There's somebody working in the kitchen, enjoying their time. Okay, Noah. Challenges, which I mentioned a moment ago. Our number one challenge by far is programming staff. I know everybody's feeling the same exact way. What we prioritized over the last handful of years is just getting as much as we possibly can safely out of the limited resources of staff that we have. But if you see our W-2s, we're definitely trending in the right direction. So we're just under 200 W-2s in 20 and 21, and we just about reached 300 in last year. So, but going backwards, in 2016, we issued 692 W-2s. So that's how much. So from 16, that was our high point. We've been struggling to find staff from that point on. It's been on a downward. It's been on a decline until 2022. So we've never put more time and effort and resources into finding staff, and that's our number one limiter right now. All right. And like I mentioned before, so there's Jack, and he's a Lake Forest resident, but he'll be here on Sunday along with 10 other Special Olympic basketball teams. First I'm a golfer. First tip off, first jump ball is 9 o'clock. Championship game starts off at 3:15. So if you're around on Sunday, please just stop by. You will enjoy your time, I promise. Any questions?
How many participants in total?
Great question. This year, and we give the report to John and the board on Thursday. So we had just under 1,500 individuals who signed up for just under 5,000 programs, compared to in 2019, we had just under 7,000 participants who signed up for just under 8,000 programs. So 20 and 21 were definitely, because of COVID, definitely a step backwards, but we're moving right back up towards where we were, getting there slowly but surely.
So when these activities go on here, like the powerlifting and so forth, do they all start off at your building and then they bust up here?
Great, yeah. So so almost all of our programs offer transportation of some sort. Not every single one does, but the majority of them do. So Lake Bluff is our home for our powerlifting team. So we have a route that starts at NSSRA in Highland Park, and then goes south, picks up at the Wilmette Community Rec Center, makes its way through Northbrook, picks up at the Northbrook Sports Center, goes into Highland Park, picks up at the Highland Park, either their sports center or at Moraine, which is in downtown. There's it's right next to the special ed building. There's a lot of group homes in downtown Highland Park. That's a pickup, and then we end up here at Lake Bluff. And if you live up here, you'll just meet here. And then after the program, we reverse that route. With transportation, our goal is to make our programs through transportation as reachable as if you're in your hometown. So If you live in Glenview, you'll choose between, depending where you live, you'll either go to Wilmette or Northbrook to drop off your kid, or your child of whatever age. So we like to have drop-off points within 10 to 15 minutes at most. So it'd be similar if you're living on that end of Lake Bluff, to make your way here for a program, it'll take you 10 minutes to get here. So that's our goal, and we do a pretty good job of it. So the foundation buys all of our vehicles. We have 10 vehicles, 5 of which are wheelchair accessible vans. So that we have 5 wheelchair accessible vans, 3 15-passenger non-wheelchair vans, and then 2 minivans. And we divide those up by every program, and they drive around town every single day, bringing us to and from programs.
Yeah, I think it's a good approach. I had experience with an SRA in the past, not in Edgewood, but before that, who really believed in door-to-door transportation for everybody. Where this is, more like, like a lot of programming, but, mom and dad, we try to take the participant to a pickup point versus the door-to-door. That's SRA, they did the door-to-door for all of these different participants, spent so much money on the fleet and the drivers that it limited the amount they could spend on the programs. They had a lot longer waiting lists and, just less ability or capacity for programming. So I think it's just, a really good approach.
And full disclosure, we have waiting lists right now too, and those waiting lists are caused because we don't have enough staff to, man. So our typical programs are, anywhere from 8 to 14 participants, and we have waiting lists for almost every single one of our programs. So, and that is the number one limiter is our program staff. So it's moving in the right direction, but we have a lot of work to do still to get the staff. So if you know anybody wants a really fun job, let me know, but I know everybody else is competing for them too, so.
That's after they apply.
John just kicked me. Remember, we are you, you are us, so. And a lot of our staff come here, and our biggest army of staff in the summertime is inclusion staff. We have more inclusion staff than we have summer camp and program staff. So inclusion in our partner districts is our biggest program. Yeah.
How big is that? Does that swell in the summer? How many?
Yeah, we want 250. Last year, I think we got to 190. So,
what do you do for the summer staffing? Do you use like university students or special ed?
Yeah. Yes, that's our target. We have a relationship with every high school, every college around here. We go to all the job fairs, just like, we see, the Lake Bluff staff there and everything. So, but our target is high schoolers and college age individuals that are going into some type of human services, whether it's education, OT, PT, special recreation, therapeutic recreation. That's our main target. But we're just looking for folks with a heart that like to play. We can teach anybody anything, but if you like to play, we're a really great spot to work.
Do you have a swimming program at all, or do you?
Yes.
Which park district do you use for that?
Well, we have a number of them, but our swim team swims at Highland Park. Our swim lessons are at Highland Park and at Glenview, and then in the summer they're outdoors some. We have our adult day program and other programs also use Deerfield. So Deerfield, Glenview, and Highland Park are our 3 partners that have indoor pools. So we use all 3 of them. So team Highland Park, team lessons at Highland Park, lessons at Glenview, and then special events out at Deerfield. And then in the summer, yes, we're in all of the pools for the 3 months that they're open, whether it's inclusion-wise or our program or our camps, and or onto the beaches.
Is the inclusion one-to-one?
Often, and depending on need and the number of staff we have, it might be, one staff overseeing 2 participants if those 2 participants are in that same program. So it's typically one-to-one, but we use our resources as best we can to get the most out of them.
Thank you so
Great
much.
questions, yeah.
I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you for your partnership and hosting us this Sunday. I hope to see you all out there, or at least some of you out there, because we'll be here, hopefully making some slam dunks. I don't think so. but
What time do
we'll
you
do our
start
best.
on Sunday?
9 o'clock is our first.
Nine till Super Bowl. Is that-
9 till, yeah, so 9 is the first game, 3:15 is the championship, and consolation bracket.
Okay,
All right?
that's wonderful. Craig, thank you.
Awesome. My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
And I told Craig, while he's welcome to stay for the whole meeting, he is also able to go.
Awesome.
Yes.
I told John, I make that same offer every time we have a guest, and I've yet to have one person stick around, so I don't want to break that down. So, thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
You do wonderful work.
So, thank you so much. We couldn't do it without you, I'm terrific. All right.
See you on Thursday.
All right, yeah, see you on Thursday. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Noah. Great job. Thank you.
Good job, Nora. Next up on our agenda is the IPRA, IAPD Annual Conference. Again, I was delighted to have the opportunity to go to this. I would strongly encourage anybody who's got 3 days or even 1 day, because they tend to put all of the board-related seminars on Saturday. So it was really amazing. If I have these stats correctly, 3,600 participants, 150 different seminars. I love the fact that you can book your seminar right from your phone, take notes on your phone, and be able to send notes to yourself from there. And there were, how many from the Park District? 6 of you?
We had 7 total, 7 total.
7 total.
And it's for staff, and then
Me.
one board
Okay.
member.
My takeaways from the conference, I'll give my top 3. One was FOIA. I participated in the seminar for that. I understand that FOIA is the unfortunate thorn in every Park District side, because it is time consuming, but it's absolutely necessary to have because of open meetings and because of being a public agency. So it was fascinating to learn about how much time it takes, how much energy people put into FOIA requests, but also understanding the necessity of having that available to the public. The second thing was the dedication of the people there. With going to these seminars, we've all been to work-related meetings or seminars before where people are on their phones, they're playing, they're doing all different sorts of things. I was really taken in by every single seminar that I went to, because the speakers were so insightful and because the topics were so good. And the dedication that here are people going to Thursday, Friday, and Saturday all day, and they're dedicated to giving fun to everybody else, because it's all giving back to the Park District. So while there were a lot of board members there, it was predominantly staff that was there learning how to make an experience better for somebody in a Park District. And the last thing was the sense of camaraderie. I had so many people who handed me business cards, and so many people who contacted me after the seminar to say, you were the one board member there on the marketing roundtable. While everyone's shooting out ideas about marketing, I was kind of going, let me write this down, let me write this down, let me write this down. And reached out afterwards to say, do you have any questions, any follow-up? What would you like to do? So it was this feeling of, and I sat with John and another gentleman from, was he from Riverwoods? I'm trying to remember that last day. Where he spoke about.
River Trails.
River Trails.
River Trails Park
He
District.
spoke about the fact that while park districts have their own group that you're marketing to, you do have a choice. You know, you may be a Lake Bluff resident, but you may say, you know, Deerfield's got a really good program, or maybe I want to take the kid all the way down to Glenview or some other park district to be able to participate in something. And so he said, you want to find out how to bring that kid back to Lake Bluff the next year, but you're still going to talk to those other directors from those other communities and say, you know, take a look at their guide. What did they offer? What did they do that was different? You know, how did they staff things? So that feeling of willingness to be able to reach over boundaries, to be able to talk to other park districts was really terrific. But I'll just take it over with John and with Jim and Noah and Wolf, what you took away. last thing, I'm sorry, I said 3 takeaways, but my fourth one. The accreditation that our staff has, not well, yes, necessary in some senses, but they go above and beyond. And that was one of the things that really impressed me, was that you were there not just to keep up with trends and with new procedures and so forth, but to make sure that your accreditation was in order and to make sure that you had all the right information, which was above and beyond what you need to be able to do your jobs, which really, to me, was very impressive. But I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, thank you. So my memo starts on page 13 of the packet. This is something, I asked the staff to, to submit a summary to me, just to, some of the highlights from the conference, make sure they were awake, paying attention, and they are. They really, and as you can read here, there's some really good takeaways, some good information there. In different perspectives. I didn't collect that for the board, I collect that for me, but when President Beal was really enthusiastic after attending it, and as we were talking after the conference, and so she wanted to put that on our agenda, so I thought, well, I will share that information with the board. I think there's maybe a comment from Wolf that we'll have to dig more into about the dogs, but other than that, there's a lot of, it's just, the conference is a good opportunity to get, to get away from the office, to attend such a variety of the different classes. You can see we all listed, the various classes, and that's kind of a fraction of the classes that are actually offered. And so there's the opportunity to get these continuing education units, as mentioned earlier, and that's very valuable. And even just having the staff dinner, being able to kind of get away and, and sit with the staff in a social setting and talk about, anything but work for a little while. It was actually I think a really, just enjoyable and good staff, exercise, good event. So I'm appreciative of the board's support in allowing us as staff to attend the conference. I think it's beneficial. I think it helps, to kind of, for the staff to kind of recharge and get re-energized and really look at those different industry trends that are happening, around the state and around the country. They have speakers from out of state that come in for the conference. So I appreciate that support, and I'll just turn it over to the other staff if there's any other final comments or observations.
First of all, thank you for letting us attend the conference. I do agree. A lot of times it's about trends. Sometimes it's even about new standards. So, I kind of focus when I go to the ICAR to make sure I take a couple of courses that are related to safety or sports. Like in this instance, I attended one that's about like new standards, working with independent contractors. Sometimes, just to give an example, we may use our own background checks, or they may come to us with the background check that they use. And in this course, they said you should stick to the one standard, and that's yours. Don't take someone else's, because they may not go through the same protocols. We go through the Illinois State Police. They may go through an independent company to get those background checks. Just to give you an example. So I feel like that's always important. In concussion protocol, but, that's a big one these days. You hear that all the time, if a kid has a concussion, what is the protocol for that? And that changes every year, and that's been a focus with Illinois High School Association. That has been a major focus on high school sports, and how that has now trickled down all the way to youth sports with elementary school kids. So now the elementary school kids are getting the same standard as high school. So that's one course I took. I thought that was pretty relevant to what I do in my job and working with my team.
Yeah, to echo Jim, again, thank you to the board for allowing us to go to this conference every year. It is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to, as John mentioned, keep up with our CEUs, to keep our certification current. It's a great chance for us to talk to other people in different districts. The networking portion of it is huge for a lot of us to be able to meet somebody and go, hey, I got this problem. Do you have the same? Oh yeah, we're dealing with this too. And then the person from this district comes, oh, you guys too? And then you can kind of collaborate. Well, what are you doing to solve that problem? Because sometimes we don't always think who to reach out to. And you get these roundtable discussions, or you just a chance to pass somebody while you're having lunch real quick. And, oh, you're with Glenview Park District. Are you guys having a problem with such and such? Oh yeah, we are. So that networking portion of it is huge for a lot of us as well. And yeah, the education is hugely important, just from learning new things, there's new trends, there's new topics. I went to several about, the last one that I took on Saturday had to do with, it's called Not in My Park. It had to do with First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights. I mean, people nowadays will use those to do different things, whether it's, concealed carry in the parks. How do you deal with that? It's a real thing, it happens. We have signage up, but what do we do in those types of situations? Or alcohol in the parks. It depends on what the ordinance is and how it's enforced. So it's a great opportunity. It's unfortunate sometimes there's too many classes because you're looking at your schedule going, well, there's 3 I want to take and they're all at the same time. Now which one do I got to pick? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So that's the difficult part, but it's a great opportunity. So thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well,
That's the dogs, Wolf.
For me, it was my first one. I only went for one day. Excuse me. The nicest or the most eye-opening aspect to it was just being surrounded by people that care. No one there, likely no one there drives a Porsche or is worried about driving a Porsche. They're just there to just enjoy being a public servant, or with kids or coaching or anything. And being surrounded by that is a good feeling and reinforces why we're all here. So that's my takeaway.
Thank you.
it's also interesting just to, many of us have done the conference for a lot of years. There's slight changes, and in it, but, we're used to going down, but it's kind of fun to take some of the younger staff like Mark and Rosie who are just, very excited and enthusiastic that, just to be exposed to all of these different sessions, the exhibit hall, and then, just the networking opportunity. I think they both really enjoyed and benefit from attending.
How much time was there for networking as opposed to being in the seminars?
The seminars, usually there would be, they would be scheduled, say 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. So then there'd be a break in the middle of the day. A lot of times you can either go to the exhibit hall to talk with vendors, or there are some networking, there's some scheduled networking activities. There's a number of things in the evening. So, there's hospitality rooms that are sponsored by different, architects, or, again, the dinner sponsored by Ansel Blink on Friday was, kind of a networking opportunity. So I would say, there's quite a few sessions, like morning and afternoon, but there's definitely time set aside. Even through Saturday, there's a couple of morning sessions and then a couple of afternoon sessions. And then there's an evening closing event, but, we do the no frills package. So it's a little bit more reasonably priced, but it doesn't have a few things like the awards luncheon and, the closing dinner, which might be at the, a museum or different, social activity. But in lieu of like the awards luncheon on Friday, we do a staff lunch. So we just go to Sweetwater Grill. President Beal was able to join us there, and it was, again, was actually less expensive than, doing the awards luncheon, but still a nice chance to step away and get lunch, and then the staff can return their per diem that they didn't use for lunch that day.
With every seminar, I'm going to say the majority of the speakers, and I'm sure you guys experience this too, they all looked at the room and went, I've never had a room this packed, because there were just so many people that wanted to go to these different things. And, you know, they do try to make the titles very enticing, but at the same time, you're talking about taxing, you're talking about tax levies, you're not talking about, and the guy who was talking about tax levies just looked at the room and said, seriously, standing room only? But they would always have a question and answer session at the end, and that's when you start throwing out different things, just as Noah said, you know, you have a problem or you've experienced something, and that's when you start that conversation of, oh, okay, we have this issue, or we're thinking about this, and how do we look at this?
There was, and just to show you the interest, President Beal and I were both in one, the legal legislative program is a part 1 and part 2. So we were in part 1 on Friday morning at the 8:30 class. There were probably 15 to 20 people standing in the back of the room. The room was so full for an 8:30, class. It was really, it's impressive to see, that interest and to see it fell out.
I just want to say something. No, I love that you listed all the classes you took. I'm a bullet point kind of person, so it's kind of nice to see. And the two that caught my eye right away were assisting your park project for grants and funding, and then bidding 101, bidding requirements, exceptions, and strategies. Any takeaways from those courses that you took, or any friends that you made, or anything awesome you can share with us?
I had somebody who sat next to me during the first session, the one about grants. And I think she learned a lot.
Yes.
Oh, was
No, there was a big takeaway from the grants one. I think and I don't know if President Beeler agrees with me on my statement after, because we kind of convinced after the fact. But when you're going for grant funding, a large part of it is you need to know where you're going. You need a plan, and you need a strategic plan or a capital plan, or you need a master plan of what do you want to achieve, because you can't go after grants until you know what you want. You can't put the cart before the horse and just go after grants willy-nilly. You have to kind of have an idea of, well, we want to build a new building. Okay, well then, we're going to build a building, we need the master plan of the building, then what grants can we get for the building? You can't go backwards. So I think that's a big takeaway that's important, is positioning yourself to get the grants. You have to do some work ahead of time. And that's a really important one.
And then that's great. I totally agree with you. The bidding 101, bidding requirements. That's something you do a lot of.
That is, and it changes from time to time. Like last year, there was it changed from a $25,000 bid limit to a $30,000 bid limit. So we don't have to go out to bid for anything under $30,000. There's a couple things that have exceptions. You don't have to go to bid for things like landscape architects, engineers. Some software things you don't have to go to bid for, actually. They're exempt depending, it gets a little gray in some of the areas of what you can't call software, but there's some different requirements of what you do and what you don't have to bid out. So that was some great information to learn. But like I said, what you can and can't do and what you have to be careful doing, you can't look at a project and go, okay, we'll bid this out 4 different ways because that's a class 4 felony and we don't want to go to jail. So some things you have to do to legally stand the right side of the law. So it was really some really good takeaways though, as far as that goes.
How many CED credits do you have to do? Just curious.
In order to keep our CPRP, we have to get 2 full credits, and each class is 0.1 credit. So we have to take
0.1 is like an hour.
An hour.
So that's equivalent of like 20 hours of.
20 hours a year or every 2 years?
Within a 3-year period.
Or 3 years?
Yeah.
So depending on the certificate.
Depending on the certificate, now the AFO is a 5-year period, I believe.
It's a 5-year period, it's still 2.0, but it's, there are restrictions on 2.0. So like I have an AFO, I have to spend half my time, 10 hours of my time on mechanical. So you have to take classes that are mechanical related to pool operations. And the other 10 could be risk management or lifeguard certificate or something like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, thank you, both Jim and Noah, for being there, for Mike and Rosie as well, and thank you very much, Executive Director Beeler, for being there as well. It's really helpful. All right. On to the North Shore Water Reclamation Basin Project update.
Okay, can you share your screen again, and put, that's the last page in the packet. All right, so not a lot of changes. We'll be coming back to the next regular meeting, regular board meeting, with some recommendations from the Parks and Beach Committee. So as far as the project itself, they've made a few changes based on, meeting there on site. So you can see that kind of the red box there, the rectangle, that's where they're proposing the generator. So that is better than what they were first proposing, which was on the north side of the road there. Yeah, really just, taking out a tree and leveling a portion of that area, which really wouldn't be ideal, and that's Park District property. So they've moved it closer to the building. We recommended south by the shelter, but they're not sure that between running the wires a longer distance to get the amount of power that they need from it and also trying to fuel it up once they dig the hole, that would work. So they're looking at tucking it away kind of behind the building. Still not going to be ideal, but it'll be better than their first option. They've also, know if you can just kind of hover your mouse over the tracking pad. So that area there, they push that gate back to allow access to the beach so that we can, our ATV can get up and down there multiple times if they need to take, somebody that is not able to walk down, because we're not going to be able to have any cars go down this year. So they can transport somebody who needs assistance like they have in the past, or they're going to have to help with, if you have a rental and you need to bring some coolers, you use ATV for that. Also, of course, an ambulance or a police car would be able to use that as access. So we're still trying to work out a dumpster and a porta potty location, at least for the summer, for the busy months, but it's really going to be a tight site. So that's a little bit of a struggle that we're having right now with them. Trying to remember anything else here. No other's changed since our last meeting.
Not too much, other than, like, so the game got pushed back, allowing the to be here.
Are they able to do any sort of protection? Again, my spatial plotting of this is never very good, but the whole beach dune nature area, is that going to be fenced and protected, or is that, what are they doing?
Yeah, it's going to be fenced on the edge of the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we were concerned about that. That's where we were talking about putting up the new wall, but then we're concerned that might get damaged.
Right, yeah.
So we talked about that with the contractor, with AECom, the village, everybody there, that's a very sensitive area, that there's some native cactus in that we showed them while we were down there. But, once the project gets going, it's also a bowl in the china shop once they start working. So we're gonna have to definitely keep an eye on that area. But they were, you can read some of the minutes from that meeting, and we stressed that was, these are some sensitive natural areas.
Do you have the pictures and everything of the befores?
Yes, we started taking some pictures.
We must have called this.
Just what the
Committee member Russell, Parks and Beach committee member, has taken 50 pictures already down there, and I have taken a number myself. So it's a really good idea, and we'll probably take some more for the Park District camera, just to really record,
that generator it's on the bluff area. It's sitting on the bluff. Is that what that is?
Not up on top of the bluff, at the back of the building. So, as you walk down
But how are they leveling it? I mean, 'cause that's sloped.
That's what they're looking at right now. Well, there is some concrete back there, that's where there's some green boxes, so as you're walking down the access road, and you're looking right, in the back area there where they would go. But I haven't seen the final plan, if they're gonna have to cut into the bluff to try to level, and put it there. Because the one idea was they could put it up on top of the bluff, but I told them that if you run out of town, they did that. So I put a porta potty up there and a couple of barricades of flashing, lights, and we got yelled at. So I told them that definitely wouldn't work. So this is what they're looking at. I know they are gonna have to remove a few trees, but they're applying for their permit from the village for the tree removal. So they don't have that final plan yet.
Is that village property there?
Yes, that's village property, not park district property, so we
Okay.
don't really have a lot to say when it gets to that area. That's why I could say no when they wanted to put it on the north side, because that's park district property. But this is village property.
Does that village property go all the way up the bluff?
I think it does, yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, it's straight down to the water.
So everything.
Yeah, it actually goes out into the water.
Interesting.
Okay.
So one of the things we talked about in the Parks and Beach Committee was to do some signage here at the Park District. Because just exactly what you said, everyone's gonna think it's all Park District, not village and everything else. So maybe something here so that people can see visually what's gonna be happening, what's gonna be changing. And the fact that this is all going on, inhibiting the access to that portion of the beach for the summer. So just good messaging, I guess.
We're also talking to them about if they'd like to share the security costs. We spent about $20,000 over the summer, and there's going to be a fence, which just turns into a challenge for kids, and how easy it is to get over the fence and into the construction site. So the security may help with that. So we're asking if they'd like to contribute to that security bill. So Drew said no thank you for the village, so they're not interested in participating. But which is not surprising. It's not really their project. But so North Shore, I'll talk to them next, and we'll see if they would be able to be interested in put a little money towards the security.
From a park district standpoint, what are we trying to protect with the security?
With the security, it's there were, it goes back to the past. I think it's people parking up above and going down primarily after hours, and a lot of it's, mischief, that's drinking and last summer we had a case where it was two kids that went swimming and they forgot their swimsuits. And then, the guard confronted them and asked them to leave, and they called me the next day to complain that the guard told them to leave.
So it's just a routine, we're not talking about additional security because of the construction?
No, we would not, this is the same that we would always have. Yeah, it's 7 to 1 a.m., 7 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they help with the closing, the last hour of the beach.
So they are there for an overlap with a night manager from 7 to 10.
Right.
Is when we have a night beach manager collecting money. And then at 10 o'clock, they walk them to their car. So that way we have, they do have cash with them occasionally, they drive it back to the park district and put it in the pool safe. Okay. Then they're there from 10 to 1 o'clock on their own, and they do rounds.
Sure. Yeah, I just thought we were talking about an additional 20,000.
No, that's the same that we spend. So I think that's will be on the next regular meeting, will be that contract. I think it's a $2 per hour increase was.
Yeah, I was actually surprised it was that little for 3 years. So we would lock in, I think it's $27 an hour now, locking in for the next 3 years without it going up.
Thank you.
So that's really the update for now on the project, unless there are any questions. Any more questions?
So that goes nicely into our next and last new business item of Sunrise Beach 2023 operations.
Yes, and so I'll just share a little bit of information from the Parks and Beach committee meeting, and then, feel free to jump in where you'd like. And so some of the things that were talked about, what's going to be allowed or not allowed down there. So the feeling, and recommendation from staff and discussion with the committee is really that nothing with wheels are going to be able to be allowed down an access road. There will be so much construction traffic for digging a 40-foot hole. It's going to be an incredible number of trucks that are up and down during this project. And so the number one concern is the safety. And so we're not going to be able to allow any sunfish or boats. We won't have the room for it. We can't have somebody taking a trailer down there. Even the paddle boards, if they can carry it, then they're fine. Because some are inflatable, some they can carry. Some are like, people use it like a dolly, type on wheels. So we won't be able to allow this because it's just gonna, we're gonna try to promote all of the traffic, foot traffic on the pathway as much as possible. And so that's gonna be the recommendation coming forward at the next meeting, I think was that the use of a tent. So the church has requested, they typically do their ceremony in the south shelter. They do two services, I should say. Now they'd like to do one service in a tent that would be rented and put in the middle of the kind of the middle cell there. It's kind of pushed back towards the bluff. You don't think it's gonna really hamper typically the operation. Their service is in the morning. Not a lot of people on the beach at that time. So the feeling of the committee was that would, that would probably work. That they're willing to rent and put the tent out there, and they would buy the ADA mat, that blue mat like we had at the South Beach. They purchased that. But that's not long enough to do this stretch, so they would purchase more to make that accessible to that tent. And I think that would be helpful for for the whole summer for access. And I know it didn't feel like that would be a problem with the beach groomer and that operation. So that's going to be the recommendation coming back to the board. I think from the committee was to allow that, them to do the rent the tent and use that area.
Would the tent be up all summer?
All summer. So we could use it if we wanted to do, so now we won't have the south shelter to do rentals. If we want to do two rentals, we would have our north shelter, which is smaller, or this tent. We could use as kind of a backup to to do, if we felt like, we could accommodate that on the beach. We don't want to overload it with too much space for the rentals pouring out and not have space for residents, but a lot of times the rentals are needing as the beach is slowing down. So, but people can just use it during the day. If they're looking for a place to get out of the sun or, they could sit under it as well, unless there's something programmed or scheduled. The church would only be using it for one service, just on Sunday mornings.
I just have a quick question. When you say no wheels, I'm assuming you discussed the exception of strollers?
About strollers, I think for the still trying to promote if they can go down the pathway to do.
Yeah.
Because that was, it was really, as we went through the discussion, especially with talking with staff as to what can you safely accommodate.
Right.
And then, the whole thing of what if somebody takes a
We talked
paddleboard.
about strollers, or, when we brought it up, maybe we could allow them, but the consensus from the committee was like, hey, we're just, with the trucks going up and down, we're sending mixed signals, what can go down. I mean, no bicycles, not even having the runners go up and down the hill. We talked about that. It's strictly ATV staff and construction workers.
A lot of those people, sorry I wasn't at the meeting, a lot of those people that, like, especially the runners, they're there early in the morning, so that might be a consideration.
Could be, well, we talked about that, but then we're worried that it's mixed signals, that we're not consistent.
I'm just saying that
they start the construction at 7, but some of the trucks are showing up at 6:30,
But if you have runners on at 6:30, we don't typically have staff down there. So.
No, we don't have staff. We want to have, they might have, there's a construction staff there, but we're not going to have staff there chasing people away. And we know that people don't always listen to every sign we put out, so there may still, be, some people that go do that, but we wouldn't promote that. We would.
Just as an awareness, and you know how to handle when these things come up. So, but I just see a lot of people running at that beach hill, and riding their bikes on the beach hill.
Yeah, we're not going to control all of it.
Absolutely, but just an
I
awareness.
think we want, get involved in outside of our normal operational hours.
I don't disagree, and I think as long as the company deals with what they have to deal with, that,
They said they'd put a flagger at the top of the hill while they're working.
They are gonna have a flagger?
Yeah, they said that they would have a flagger at the top of the
What are
hill.
they expecting truck-wise? Like, how many trucks are they expecting? Does anybody know?
They didn't say how many, but it will be an incredible amount. Just knowing how much they have to haul out, there will be trucks.
Do they think like it's gonna take a week of digging? Usually some of these projects have like a plan and they have like, okay, this is gonna be the time limit for this.
Right.
If you're a good project manager, you would know.
Yeah, that's what they're working on now. They were just given the letter of intent to proceed in early January, so they're working that out right now, the contractor, with all the, timing and, all of that, so we've not seen that yet.
Well, went from starting in October to starting in March. They're down there, they've got flags. One quick question, just out of curiosity, did we do something to the locks so that all the yacht club and other people that were given lock keys to the locks can no longer access that road?
That's the next phase, that's how we find out who has a lock.
Because I still get questions, who can I call to get a lock to get down to the beach? I'm pretty sure they changed them.
Here's the thing with the new gate, we started a new procedure during beach operations that we have a gate manager. So that gate manager, there's no need for a key unless it's outside of our hours of operation. But we talked that this might be a good time to rekey. I mean, you should do that every 3 to 4 years anyway.
It's been a long time.
And this would be a really good time for that. That way we can control people who had keys, because we know people who just happen to still have a key, get down there, and realize they really can't get down there. I mean, there's not a lot of room. But you're going to still have a few people with those sunfish boats, that are going to try to go down during outside the hours of operation and do their thing. But if we rekey it, then...
Exactly. There was one day I was down there where there was a car coming down, and there were trucks that you could not get through. And this car was not from Lake Bluff, but they're going down because they saw the road open. And we stopped him and said, you can't get there, and he had to back all the way up. So they're gonna do it.
More than likely, the gate's gonna be gone for the summer. Anyway.
I mean, so it doesn't get damaged,
Yeah.
And they'll have other barricades, that they'll put out.
We're also gonna buoy the middle beach, so that way we could allow for safe paddleboarding to go outside the cove. That's what we do over at South, so we're gonna do the very same, the middle, just to allow that anybody who can walk down a kayak or paddleboard and carry it down with them, that they can safely, keep the swimmers on one side and then keep those vessels on the other side. So that was our plan, to do that, to move those buoys from South to Middle Beach. Obviously, our sailing program won't be happening this summer. I mean, we are pretty sad about that because it is a popular program. There's just no way, to store boats, to move boats, we would need our rescue boats. And so I know this came up in committee meeting about running a kayak or a paddle program. One thing, the reason why we got rid of that was for safety reasons. After we had a situation and it blew up a little bit on social media, as well as the newspaper, that our lifeguards are not permitted to swim outside the cove. I don't know if anybody knew that or not. That's too far for them. So we're putting our lifeguards in danger. When they did rescue that kayak, they took it upon themselves to swim outside that cove. So, and we congratulated them for doing that on their own and going the extra step. So if we ran a program, we would need to have a rescue boat outside in case there was an emergency situation outside the cove.
Sure.
So just kind of put it in perspective for safety reasons. I think it's just best that we go without a program like sailing for a year. It's unfortunate. I really thought we were going to be able to do it at Lake Forest, but that just didn't happen. But we are going to try to staff those staff members that were with those programs, so that way they can be part of our beach staff or aquatic staff, so that way we can kind of keep that group going, so, you know, when it comes next year, we can hire them back in those capacities. So, we did talk about creating a QR code, so people can just see our new, you know, some of our new guidelines that can happen down at the beach once we come up with it and finalize it between Parks and Beach Committee as well as the board. We're also not going to allow for the volleyball net to be up. It takes up a lot of room. And if there's like a special request, like later in the evening or something like that, I think we can have staff put it in. But I think it might be, we talked about, I think the idea was, hey, don't you have bags? Don't you have spike ball or some beach games? We do have those. We'll promote them even more, and we'll have some extra of those games available for residents to just check out, not rent. But, you know, if they want to use them, they can use them on the beach, and they don't take as much space as the volleyball net.
I think it's, you know, part of what we discussed, it could be easier we could add things, is we can see how the operation is. If we start, I think it's harder to have them at the beginning and take away than it is to go for a week or two or a month and then add as you can. You know, something, I mean, the volleyballs are, you know, say 30 by 60 for the area, and, you know, footprint they're taking up. It's a lot of space on the beach, and we're losing at least a third, you know, of our beach space for the entire summer. So we're just trying to come up with a reasonable plan that, you know, to try to keep most of the beach open and accessible to residents. But it's going to be disruptive and difficult. There's not going to be any easy way to do it. There will be, you know, a number of unhappy beachgoers and residents. We're just going to, you know, we're going to have to get through the project. Again, safety being a definite priority, and just so we're going to, you know, we're going to be nearful. You know, there's just going to be a lot of unhappy folks that, you know, that will have to, you know, you just have to adapt.
So one option, like for the volleyball, just thinking, you know, you might want to think about like maybe doing it like one night, like, hey, maybe like a slow night, like Monday night volleyball, just to add things, because I know volleyball, I used to play with my kids, and it was always a fun thing to do as a family, and then other families would join in, and it was always a good time. So just an idea of like, maybe there's different ways of having it. Maybe it's not just having it out all the time. Maybe use it as like a fun event during the summer, like maybe once a week.
Like pickleball.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Just an idea.
no, that's actually a good idea. That's a good idea. I mean, that could, you know, we
You know, like,
can
you make it kind of fun. You're like, hey, we're gonna do, and then kind of promote it. Just an idea.
work with staff and see if tends to be a quieter night where there's less people on the beach, that
Yeah,
would have the
Wednesday
space
night,
to put it out. Yeah, we could, and I don't know, maintenance wise, how difficult is that to put up? Is that something aquatic staff can do, or?
Right? I don't know.
I said, let's charge, let's do pickup volleyball, you know, make it a program.
Oh, yeah, you can make it a program, actually make it a program, where you do, family, yeah, you can totally make it a program. Where you have, like, it's actually something you do in the evening. Yeah, I think people would come to it.
Either families or, you know, like adults or whatever.
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
This would be pretty hard to put up.
When are we going to take a look at, the rock removal?
The what?
The rock removal in the lake itself? Because we talked about, knowing you had the company that gave about a $20,000 quote.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so he's getting a revised quote, because that was to do all the beach, including south. So now it's gonna be hopefully less, because it's, you know, smaller area, that we're gonna come back with that, and bring that to the board for proposal to do that in the spring. So the discussion from, and the last time we talked about this was the August Parks and Beach, but even George had agreed, you know, doing it in the fall, the winter's kind of a waste, because it's going to be more coming in, especially with the storms, more of the debris. So really waiting until spring, till closer to opening, you know, so that's what we're working on right now for a plan.
So that'll be done before opening, well into the opening.
Yeah.
And that's in the water too.
In the water, yeah.
In the water, yeah, they'd go, that was going out. They're not putting a boat in the water, but they're but using equipment that can reach in the water and pull out.
What was the company?
John Keno and Company, Keno and Company?
Same one that did the armor revetment that we hired to do that section 2 years ago. It's the same company. They're popular in this area. One of the big, you know, contractors does a lot of this work. So they did the Beans property. They've done work for North Shore Water Reclamation District. They've done work down at the parks.
When they remove big rocks, can they put them somewhere strategic?
It's actually.
Noah's got a pile behind the golf shed.
He does. He's got a rock pile over there. Yeah, they can be very strategic. You know, it's almost fun to watch it when they're doing the big, you know, armor stone. But yeah, I don't know how big these will be that they're pulling out.
Doesn't AE Pump's plan have it putting it against the foot of the bluff? Isn't that one of the?
I would have to revisit the.
I think that's on, we could
That's different.
get some money off the future if we had to do it.
They're like concrete debris.
Yeah, it
Different.
depends what size they're able to get out.
And I'm just trying to visualize the buoy. Is that when you walk, is it on this side then, the buoy for the paddle holders? And
It'll be on the right side facing the lake.
so when you, like, if you're going down the ramp?
If you go down the access road and get into the beach from the parking
Where
area,
the dog was?
where the temporary dog beach was,
Okay.
we will have, because that's a bigger cove than north. And we don't want people going across the beach with paddle boards and kayaks, and, you know, we don't know how crowded it's gonna be. It's gonna be a real challenging summer. You know, and the last thing we were gonna do was, we were at 50 people per rental for North Shelter. We're gonna keep that for during the day, but we're gonna increase it to 75 in the evening. So, because evening, we found out last year, we weren't getting quite a few people, and I figured since, you know, there's gonna be, people were requesting for more, and they were already doing it. So I think if we get to 75, that's an easier number to control.
So are there any other questions, or are there anything you'd like us to find out before the next meeting that to bring back and discuss about the operation?
I love the solutions, like trying to find solutions. It's really great, like being able to use, you know, for people to paddle boards and kayaks, and just coming up with some creative solutions is always a good idea. Especially with the chaos going on.
Yeah.
It's nice for people to have options, definitely. Thank you.
All right, with that, we conclude our new business, and can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned then. Thank